Well, the Washington State Cougars and head coach Jake Dickert enter 2023 with, I'll say, a mixed bag, at least in my opinion. I think you have some solid positions on the offensive end where you know who's going to be what, but there is a lot of overhaul on this team. A lot of new wide receivers coming in through the transfer portal. The defense is losing some talent that they are getting retooled through the transfer portal as well. And this is a team in Washington State that, well, who knows what to expect from them in 2023? Can they be a surprise team and rise to the ranks among the contenders of the Pac-12 Conference? Or is this going to be a team that maybe falls off and potentially misses a bowl game here next season? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. I'm predicting all 133 FBS-level college football teams this summer, which means I'm doing your favorite team. So hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when your favorite team gets uploaded. But you can do more than that to help me support my channel. Hey, you guys are already doing one right now by watching the video. Might as well do more by liking, commenting, sharing, and really anything else you guys can think of to help me support my channel. Whatever you guys are able to do, I will greatly appreciate. Let us talk about Washington State in 2023. Hey, this is, I think, going to be a very interesting team to watch this season. As we take a look at Jake Dickert's club, how do we do things around here? Glad you asked. We go through a roster overview, take a look at who the team lost, who's coming back, and who's coming in through the transfer portal and recruiting class, as well as taking a look at the 2023 Washington Cougars schedule, giving it a good old game-by-game preview and prediction. So after a quick water break, let's dive into predictions for the Washington State Cougars here in 2023. Quarterback room. Hey, you do know who your quarterback is this year. It's going to be Cameron Ward. The former Incarnate Word transfer was pretty good for the Cougars last season, if not spectacular. 3,231 yards on 64.5% completion, 23 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions last season. Also did have 5 rushing touchdowns on some scrambles near the goal line, only averaged a half yard per carry last season. But you do know who your quarterback is going to be in case he gets hurt. John Mateer, who only threw 2 passes last year, but 32 yards. One of them was a touchdown as well. So John Mateer is coming back to be that backup. But again, Cameron Ward, really good quarterback for Incarnate Word. I think he'll be a good quarterback again for Washington State here in 2023. He is a guy that I really, really like as a quarterback in the Pac-12 Conference. When you take a look at this running back room, well, what's not to like, huh? You got a lot coming back. Your leading rusher in Nakia Watson is coming back, 769 yards, 9 touchdowns last season. Jalen Jenkins and Dylan Payne follow behind to be some pretty good pieces in the running back room. But, of course, it's going to be led by former Wisconsin transfer Nakia Watson. Here is where a lot of the overhaul starts to come in for this Washington State team, as this wide receiver grouping is going to be pretty much all new because you lose quite a bit in this wide receiver, and by quite a bit, I mean pretty much everybody. So when you take a look, Deshaun Stribling, Donovan Ollie, Renard Bell, Robert Farrell, among some other names that I could have mentioned here as well. But those are your top 4 leading receivers from last season, and there are a lot more I could have mentioned there as well. But when I looked at this wide receiver room, I just saw a lot of yellow on ourlads.com, which means a new player to the roster. And I'm talking about a lot of transfers coming in here. Kyle Williams, Josh Kelly, DT Sheffield, I know is a community college transfer coming over. The 49th overall rated transfer out of community college according to 24/7 Sports, and Isaiah Hamilton are coming over through the portal. Hamilton by way of San Jose State, Josh Kelly by way of Fresno State, and Kyle Williams by way of UNLV. So some Mountain West transfers and a community college transfer will be leading this wide receiver room, among some other names that may be returning for this Cougars team. Tight end room, hey, I think I know who it's going to be. Billy Revere does come back, 117 yards and a touchdown for the Cougars last season. On the offensive line, well, I could really find you lose Grant Stevens and, of course, Jarrett Kingston, but you returned. I will butcher this name, so I apologize deeply, but Fa'alili, Fa'amo comes back, as well as Connor Gomez. Don't know why I spaced on how to pronounce that, but again, I probably butchered it anyway. I apologize. And you get some transfers coming over in Christy Nakanu, and then Essa Pohl was your highest rated recruit you brought in this year, 43rd rated player out of community college, according to 24/7 Sports. On the defensive line, well, let's take a look at what you lose, shall we? Which is really nothing. So on the defensive line, you got a lot of talent coming back. Brennan Jackson, Ron Stone, Quinn Roth, Andrew Edson, Nusi Milani, among some other names. This is going to be a very good, very experienced defensive line for the Washington State Cougars this year, as well as you're getting a transfer. Why not? Let's bolster that defensive line. Naeem Rodman is coming over to help bolster up that defensive line. He is a transfer coming over from Colorado. Should be a good player for them. Should be a pretty solid defensive line. Now in the defensive back seven, okay, this is where you start losing some talent. Willie Taylor, Dallin Henley, Francisco Mauigoa, and Travion Brown are going to be some names leaving this linebacking room. Henley was your leading tackler, had 106 tackles and 4 sacks last season, throwing an interception there as well. Mauigoa was your 4th leading tackler last year, and Brown was your 6th leading tackler last season. All very, very good players. Who do you return? Well, Kyle Thornton was a name that I could see returning, 35 tackles last season, as well as getting some transfers coming in. Amon McCullough is coming over from Maryland, and then Devin Richardson is coming over from Texas, both 3-star rated transfers, according to 24/7. In the defensive back grouping, you do lose Derek Langford. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong line for a second. Armani Marsh and Jordan Lee are all going to be gone off of this defensive back grouping. However, who do you return? Jaden Hicks, Sam Lockett, and then Chow Smith-Wade are all going to be coming back for this team, as well as getting some transfers coming in Kapena Gushiken, Jamori Colson, and Dominic Tatum, who all transfer in to this program from different universities around the nation. Hey, look, this has the makings to be a very good offense if those wide receivers can fit in nicely, and the defense is replacing a lot, but it has some good talent there as well. Your head coach is Jake Dickert, offensive coordinator Ben Arbuckle, defensive coordinator, should be a space there, but Jeff Schmedding. As we take a look at the Cougars' schedule for 2023. Any game at home is going to be underlined. Any game on the road is going to be in italics of the slanted text. Any game I highlight in green is a game I have the Cougars winning easily. Any game in yellow is a game where, okay, the other team puts up a fight, but the Cougars, I believe, are going to win ultimately, and red is a loss. So without further ado, let's begin preview predictions here in 2023 for the Washington State Cougars, and I do believe that they will beat the Colorado State Rams. This Rams team, to my knowledge, was not super great last year. I do believe there are some fairly solid pieces, though, on that team. However, when I take a look at that team, I think Washington State is by far superior, and I think Colorado State will not have much luck against Washington State. But then when you take a look at this Wisconsin game, an upset potential game, absolutely. I think Washington State, Cameron Ward, especially if these wide receivers can fit in early, they have all the necessary pieces they need to be able to contend and compete with this Wisconsin defense. However, this Washington State defense, I think it's going to take a little more time to get their feet set. And Wisconsin has some real threats on offense this year. Again, Graham Mertz is gone. Tanner Mordecai is that quarterback now. He can really sling it. There's a good group of wide receivers. Braylon Allen comes back. And again, like I said, that defense is really, really talented. I think Wisconsin's going to be a very good team out of the Big Ten this year. They will overpower Washington State and hand the Cougars their first loss of 2023. But the Cougars will bounce back nicely with a win against Northern Colorado. So 2-1 through their non-conference. And then, oh boy, when you take a look at this Pac-12 slate, is it tough? Because you got to play Oregon State. And Oregon State, I think, is going to be a very good football team this year. DJ Uiagalelei is coming over from Clemson. You got Damian Martinez, Deshaun Fenwick, and some great players in the skill corps. That defense, okay, it's got to replace some pieces, much like what Washington State is going through here. But I believe Oregon State has the offense they need to be able to contend with a lot of the defenses in this Pac-12. And don't get me wrong, there's some very talented players, very talented transfers coming over for Oregon State. I think this one could be a bit of a dogfight. I think this one can go back and forth. Washington State can contend with them. I think at the end of the day, though, DJ and that offense ends up making a play to help win them that game. And then you get your bye week here for Washington State before you go on the road to play in the Rose Bowl against UCLA, a game that I also think you drop. UCLA's got a lot of options at quarterback that they can pick from. Just pick one out of a hat. And I think they're going to be a very talented piece for that offense for the UCLA Bruins. And then when you take a look elsewhere, that defense is returning a lot of very nice talent, especially on the defensive line. And then when you take a look at the skills corps, okay, there definitely are some pieces to fill in there, but UCLA's got a lot of very nice talent. Defensively, I think they're going to be a pretty sound team as well. I think they're going to be able to shut down Cameron Ward and UCLA, I do believe, will be able to win that game against Washington State. But Washington State gets back to that 500 record and beats Arizona. Arizona's got a lot of very, very nice pieces. Jaden Delores coming back. He's got a lot of weapons on the offense, especially in the wide receiver grouping. But when you look at the defense, they did lose a ton of key contributors from last season. And I think that's a thing that may hold Arizona back this year. Now, to my knowledge, they are getting some transfers coming in, but I believe what they've lost are some really, really big pieces here. And I think it's going to cost them against a team that could have a very dangerous passing attack. I think a lot of these wide receivers fit in now with Washington State, and Arizona, I believe, will go down. So the Cougars get back to 500. And then they quickly fall back below it with a loss to Oregon. Oregon's got Bo Nix coming back. I believe their top two leading rushers return there as well. And then when you take a look at that defense, yes, it's got some question marks, but they loaded up on transfers that I think are going to be really, really good pieces for them. And I think Oregon's going to be a very, very good team this year. So Washington State ends up dropping that game. But story of the season with Washington State, they get a bounce-back win against Arizona State. The Sun Devils this year, I think, are going to be a fairly competitive team. I just don't know that it's going to translate to many wins in Pac-12 play. Because when you look at Arizona State, former Oregon offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham is that head coach there. And, well, quite frankly, when you take a look, I think he's got a lot of talented transfers coming into that program. A lot of very, very talented players coming in through the recruiting class as well. I just think it's going to take a year or two to really get things going for Kenny Dillingham there at Arizona State. So Washington State, I think, going on the road, picking up a key win there to get themselves back on track. And then they get above 500 for the first time in quite some time with a win over Stanford. And I think the rebuilding process is long for Troy Taylor at Stanford. I think he's got a long way to go. He's got a lot of things to fix there with that program, and Washington State should be able to beat Stanford easily. Now, moving on to Cal. Cal is a very interesting team this year, and that's going to be a very, very competitive team this year. The reality with Cal, though, is there's a lot of talented teams in the Pac-12 that may hold them back from their true potential record-wise. However, that's going to be a very, very talented team. That's a team that I see being able to do a lot of very nice things this year. They've got a lot of talent, and I think Justin Wilcox is a pretty solid head coach. But Cal going to be able to get that win against Washington State. I think they make good plays offensively, defensively, and I think they're going to be able to out-scheme Washington State here a little bit. Interesting head coaching matchup when you look at Justin Wilcox versus Jake Dickert, but I do think going on the road going to be a little tough for Washington State there, and Cal does get the better of them in that game. But Washington State, I believe, is going to get the better of Colorado. Deion Sanders has come in and flipped Boulder on its head. A lot of transfers coming in there, and Deion Sanders is going to start winning very quickly. However, I don't quite think it is going to be this year. I think they're going to be mightily competitive with virtually everyone on their schedule, but Colorado, I believe, will fall on the road to Washington State. So Washington State makes a bowl game, and then you got to play Washington. Washington's going to be a very good team this year. They are loaded offensively, one of the best wide receiver rooms in the entire country. Michael Penix, we've seen what he can do when he can stay healthy. He's going to be a Heisman contender. And that defense, I know that secondary and passing defense have got to improve, but if that front seven can also stay healthy, that's a scary defense in Seattle with Washington this year. So all in all, when I look at Washington State, I see a 6-6 season. Definitely not bad, definitely not great either. I definitely could see this team being a lot better record-wise than I am predicting them right now. Just some question marks defensively that I think need to get solved. However, you got a very nice quarterback in Cameron Ward, some good pieces offensively, but a lot of transfers coming in that I think will need to find their place relatively quickly, given the schedule for Washington State. So that's my prediction for the Cougars. Let me know what you think of them in the comment section below. And hey, as always, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See all you guys in the next one. Goodbye.